It is the touchline here on Y254, and now it is that time that we turn our attention to rugby matters, considering that for the last 2 weeks, the culmination will be tomorrow at the Nyayo National Stadium, where the 2023 World Rugby Under-20 Trophy is in Kenya. 8 teams from all around the world have been camping in Kenya for the last 2 weeks to play some of the fantastic rugby that discovers the world's best and greatest talents of the future. And joining us here to talk much more of the World Rugby Under-20 Trophy and also rugby in general here in Kenya is the CEO, 270 Degrees Marketing Agency, Ngarua Kamuya. Ngarua, karibu sana.
Asante sana.
Imekuwa masiku bana.
Where did you get the authority to invite this man? You know, a few months ago, he was inviting me to some lucrative events, Hemingways, but nowadays I never get to see those invitations.
No,
I think I was being vengeful for not inviting him.
He needs to be honest. When I'm looking for him, he has no time for me. So I figured it's become
The
bigger.
last time I spoke to him, he was in Rwanda. He was in Rwanda attending some sporting workshop. Well, how did it go?
It was eye-opening. It makes sense why all the sports money is heading to Rwanda.
Yes.
Because not because really it makes commercial sense, to be honest. I think if the NBA had I'm almost certain if the NBA had an option, they would do it in Kenya. Okay. But they're getting a lot of government support and political goodwill, such that if I put in my $100-200 million, I know for a fact it's going to be secure, and there's not going to be any intervention from government or change in policy that's going to affect my bottom line.
Yes.
So, I mean, the BK Arena is a beautiful piece of art. You feel like you're at an NBA game.
Yeah.
Because it's been constructed to NBA standards. And right next to the same contractors who did the BK Arena are the ones who are redoing the Amahoro Stadium.
Yes.
Wow.
So funny thing is, on the final, I was sitting down and President Paul Kagame walks in maybe about 15 minutes to the tip-off. And when you look, you see to his front there is Tope Lawani, who's the managing partner for Helios Investments.
Yes.
Then I found out actually Helios are investors. But then as I was sitting down, somebody walked in and I was looking and seeing what's happening. Turns out it's Patrice Motsepe.
CAF president.
CAF president.
Yeah.
So the person I sat next to, I told them, if you see Patrice Motsepe, and when he walked in, you know, Kagame had so much time for him. He stood up, shook his hand, told him, you must come sit right next here to me. Yeah. And I told somebody, if you see...
That wouldn't happen back home in Kenya.
It would, if they understood the value.
Yes.
But then I saw that, I told this person, if you see Patrice Motsepe here talking to Kagame, it has to do something with the CAF Super League that's coming up.
The thing is, and we usually talk about it all the time, the thing is now, Paul Kagame, you look at his story and everything that has, all his story away from sports, coming on, you look at his story all the way coming on to be the president of Rwanda after the 94 genocide and everything.
Yeah.
You could never think of sports then. 25, 30 years down the line, from a general now to a civilian president, he's a president there. I know the change that he's bringing on to the country. Now he's bringing people to embrace sports.
Yeah.
Is that the environment that we have actually been talking about, that Kagame is actually giving Rwanda and the business community?
Funny thing is that this all has happened in the last 10 years, 5 to 10 years. Sports, 5 years.
Yeah.
But he did realize that Rwanda, prior to that, Rwanda was heavily dependent on subsistence farming as their biggest economic activity.
Yes.
First, you've seen it's not even commercial agriculture, it's subsistence agriculture.
Yeah.
So he made the decision about 10, 15 years ago to change it from that to a service industry. So a service-based economy.
Yeah.
And as that progressed, he came to understand the impact that sports has on the service industry. So I'm reliably informed that one of the things he did was, I think his biggest eye-opener was a Visit Rwanda deal he did with Arsenal.
Yes.
Because he's an Arsenal fan.
Yeah.
And that deal, 71% of Arsenal fans did not know even where Rwanda was. And could not even consider Rwanda as a tourist destination.
Yeah.
So He worked on that, and it has increased Rwanda's tourism numbers by about 8% per annum. I see a gentleman behind the cameras putting on a PSG jersey,
Yes.
which is also Visit Rwanda.
Yeah.
So that is also another demographic that he's looking at.
Yes.
So it's just understanding. And funny thing, by the way, is guys don't know, is that thing was actually headed for Kenya, the Basketball Africa League.
Yes.
BL.
Yeah, BL. Then we pussyfooted, we messed up. I don't want to get into details. And Kagame, realizing the opportunity, he went to the NBA and told them, look, if these guys are not giving you what you want, come here. And that's exactly what they did.
Because I look at the BAL, it is not the first time the NBA is doing this, because I think they did it in the 80s when they were doing the EuroLeague.
Yes.
They took it also to the EuroLeague,
Yeah.
and they got that audience.
Yes.
Like that audience coming onto there. There was a time also they pushed it to China, and you could see it.
They did
Good.
China 20
Yeah.
years ago.
Yeah.
And actually the numbers of China 20 years ago when the NBA was heading there is very, it mirrors what's in Africa right now.
Yes.
And that's why people like the NBA are moving. I mean, that CAF Super League, I'm seeing it's the Saudis who are financing it.
Yes.
So when I saw Patrice Motsepe there, I was like, Kagame must be negotiating for this thing to be hosted here.
You keep telling us more often that, you know, the role of the government is not to support and fund sporting activities, but put in place, you know, a conducive environment to
Yeah.
enable sports thrive.
And it's-
is that what, you know,
And
is
it's-
happening in Kigali?
And it's a mixture. And for a country like Kenya, that is what should be happening, right? Because you have a 50 or odd million citizens. You have GDP of over $100 billion. Kigali is at 14, Rwanda is at $14 billion in terms
Way
of
below
GDP,
us.
way below us. So you still have incidences in which the government is putting in a lot of money into the infrastructure
Yeah.
because they don't have a private community that's of investors that's able to support the investment.
yes.
But we have it here.
Yeah.
I mean, the Sport Pesas, the ABSAs, the Safaricoms, the EABLs, they could easily finance construction of real estate over long-term tax
Projects,
benefits,
yeah.
long-term naming rights deals. And we have those guys to do it. I mean, that arena,
Yes.
Yes.
it used to be called the Kigali Arena.
Yeah.
It's now called the BK Arena,
Yeah.
which is Bank of Kigali Arena.
Yes.
So BK have also come on board on a extensive naming rights deal.
Yeah.
So they're doing it at a $14 billion GDP. We are on 120 or thereabouts. It's just we don't realize, and we have this thing. It needs. You remember those things we used to learn in BEd, in business education,
Yes.
about factors for growth of business.
Yes.
What political stability
Yes.
/ political goodwill.
Yes.
You do need the goodwill for it to be considered as a business.
Well, that's a big conversation there, and we're still talking about it. But let's come back home and talk about the World Rugby Under-20 Trophy that is actually happening in Nairobi. 2 weeks now.
Yes.
Finals heading on to tomorrow. You have been there.
Yeah.
How has been the event been so far?
There are two ways to look at it.
Yes.
There's the technical side, which is the rugby on the pitch, and there's the enjoyment side.
Yeah.
That has been crap. We won't even talk about it.
You're ravishing the performance of Kenyan top artists.
No. I mean, when, where, and I didn't see, and that's a mistake we make largely. Let me focus on the technical side first before we get to that. It's been very quality rugby.
Yes.
It's good to see the future stars. I think about the 2009 at that time, those days it was called the JWRT.
Yes.
And I remember especially the US team had a lot of guys who transitioned into their men's 7s and 15s team.
Yeah.
So guaranteed a lot of the guys we're seeing here, the Scottish, the Uruguayans, the Spanish, Samoa, Kenya and Zim,
Yeah.
a lot of them are going to be transitioning into
Yes.
their national teams. Kenya team is playing well, I'll be honest,
Yeah.
based on how short a time they had to get ready for this tournament.
Yes.
I think they've performed very well, losing 35-14 to Samoa
in the first
there
game
in the
after.
first game, and then losing 48-15 to Spain.
Yeah.
I mean the
48-18.
18, sorry. Yeah. I hear the Spanish have been in Stellenbosch for 5 months.
Yes.
And, so our guys just got together 2 weeks before Bathurst Cup,
Yes.
which was in April.
Yeah.
And then obviously beating Hong Kong. So the talent is there.
Big win for us
Big
against Hong Kong.
Against Hong Kong.
Yeah.
But my biggest worry is in the next 2-3 years, these kids are going to be finishing university,
Yeah,
3-4
yes,
years.
yeah.
At that time, they have to make a conscious decision as to whether they continue playing rugby or they go and focus on their career paths. And if rugby is not a career option, then we will lose this cohort of guys who've gotten exposed
Yes.
to international competition at the highest level
Yeah.
very early on in their years. And if this becomes a cycle, because it's the same thing with that 2019,
Yes.
we have about 6 or 7 guys who transition to the senior setup. You know, Patrice Agunda, Oscar Oma, Curtis Lilako, Delilah Siligwas, maybe maximum 10.
Yes.
There's a bunch of other guys who never moved forward. You know, there's Oscar Otindo, who was fullback, Collins Omai, who went to sprint,
Yes.
Owen Ochola, who was at wing, Ryan Musumba, who was at prop. Many guys who never moved on
Yeah.
because it wasn't a career option. So at some point you have to make the conscious decision as to whether I pursue my career or I'm going to pursue rugby. So that's my biggest
And
worry.
related to something we were talking earlier on about, you know, continuity of the kids we get to witness at a tender stage,
Yes.
and the follow-up mechanisms as stakeholders need to do
Yes.
to retain them.
Yes.
Because I think we need to make sports, our local sports, more marketable, so that to convince these boys, the young lads, that, you know, this is where you belong even in the future.
Yeah, it has to be. I mean, it has to be a career option. There's a lot of focus and word in talent development in Kenya. And yes, I do agree.
It's a cliche.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
But I do agree there's some form of talent development because if you don't do that, then there's no talent you're going
Because for us, you can look at these kids, most of them have played now their basics rugby at high school level. And then getting onto the university, and now they are playing it they played at the Butters Cup, and now the trophy tour that is here in the country. And yes, that one has given them that option. But change of administrations, everything that happens when it comes to federations and everything, and now we have got a new leadership at the Kenya Rugby Union, and the partnerships that they are getting and everything. Can you give these children hope? Because if you say like 3 years down the line, we might lose this group of kids. Can you give them hope that 3 years down the line, you've got a chance to actually stick with rugby?
Are they being remunerated? At the end of the day, like I
That's
said,
what I'm doing now.
it's a career option
Yeah.
and remunerated at national and club level.
Yes.
Because remember, I don't have too many national assignments. As a 15th, 7th player, fine.
Yeah.
Eight, and now even we're out of the circuit. So until we get back onto the circuit, you don't have too many assignments as a national team player.
Yes.
So it has to make sense even from club level, you know, for these guys to transition and continue and you to be able to retain the talent. Because if they're not getting professional contracts, if this is not their work, then it doesn't matter how many administrations come. So that continuity is important. But for it to be important, then the business side has to make sense. The job market has to be there.
Yeah.
And that's my biggest worry. There's a lot of good talent in that team. But then what's going to happen 3 years down the line if we don't fix our economics?
What was the strategy that was being applied some few years ago when, you know, the likes of Mangi Mode was at the helm of Kenya Rugby Union? Because we've had top-notch professionals, you know, as rugby players, Africa Yangi, Andrew Amonde, you know, Colin Sinjera, people who've, you know, studied complex courses, but at the same time, you know, they're juggling between their line of professionalism and playing the sport they like best.
Not really. At that time, their work was rugby.
Their work was rugby.
Yeah, that's the honest thing, and guys don't want to say that. These guys were focused. Yes, they did have the degrees, and that's fine. But their core responsibility was rugby. If you're required to train 6 hours a day, at what time am I going to work? At what time am I going to work? But if I'm going to ask you to train 6 hours a day, then I have to be able to remunerate you for you to be able to focus on that 6 hours a day. And that's exactly what was happening in that era. These guys had money. They were being paid money. They were being paid decent money. So we just need to fix the ecosystem. And it just can't be at the national team. You just can't have a professional national team and your clubs are crap.
Yes.
You know, and people are not earning, you know, off those clubs. So back actually, before, when you're talking about talent, there's this talent. That's all people talk about in Kenya. Talent development.
Yes.
But to me, it's miscued in this sense. One, what are we talking in terms of talent development? right?
Yeah.
Ideally, talent development should be going to the. This word is so popular. Grassroots. Grassroots is okay. We know what grassroots.
And nurturing talent.
That what you should be doing. You know, I watched an interview where Arsene Wenger said, if by 14 years you can't play football, basically you can't.
Forget about
you can't.
everything.
Yeah, you can't take a good pass. You can't read the field. You can't look at where the gaps are. You don't know situational awareness.
Yes.
Those are the intrinsic things about sport. It's the same thing in rugby. If you can't tackle well, if you don't know how to take a tackle, if you don't can't
basics
pass
of
left,
the
if you
game.
can't pass right,
Yeah.
if you don't know how to play the gap and not play the man, if you can't do that by 14,
Yeah.
forget about a professional career.
Yes.
And the truth be told, that's why our players always suffer. They're very good athletically. They'll get those professional contracts. But when they get there, why don't they maintain those professional contracts? It's because we don't have those intrinsic skills.
You saw a tweet by Michael Johnson on Ferdinand Romanyala over his muscularity and whether
I haven't
our
seen.
sports science experts need to look at his body physique and whether it will play to his advantage in sprints.
I haven't seen it, but I'm almost certain it's along those lines you're talking about.
Yes, yeah.
So those are the things, that's what talent, that's where we should be aiming in terms of talent management, right? But as you focus on that growth of talent, we are producing this talent to play where?
Yes.
Right? So are you producing them to go to play in the States? You can be sure, or England or Europe, you can be sure there are not going to be many of them playing there.
Yeah.
So you're condemning these people toward abject poverty. You're wasting all that money you're investing in talent. You have to fix the job market. And that's what we're seeing with the JWRT team, or the World Under-20 team. Very good talent, excellent. Look, the fact that they've been able to put up such a performance with only, what, 2.5 months of camp, you have to give them props.
Yeah,
Yes.
yes,
But
they
then,
have done their best.
yeah, the fear is what happens after this.
Yes.
Yeah, so we have to wait, and you see, the Spains and the Uruguays are not sleeping.
Yeah.
These are traditionally not really rugby powerhouse.
teams, yeah.
Especially Spain. Uruguay, we can make a case for them. They've been to the Rugby World Cup
Yes,
twice
yeah.
or thrice.
Yeah.
But Spain, I mean, these are guys we beat 5-6
And
years
pulling
ago.
an upset.
You know, we beat them 6 years ago here in Nairobi. Now, if the 15s men's team comes, they'll whoop us, guaranteed.
Yeah.
You've seen the under-20s, and these are the guys who are building up. And I can assure you, with the systems that are in Spain, this talent is going to be maintained.
Spain is in HSB's World 7 Series.
Yeah.
Or they got relegated
I
as well.
don't know if they got relegated, but just to show you the impact that rugby has, Australia and New Zealand have lost their legs.
Yes.
Madrid is now on the calendar.
Yeah.
So if World Rugby is making a decision that Madrid is on the
And
calendar,
then there is
something is happening in
case
Spain.
to be
Yes.
Again,
spoken
the
about
new
Spain.
format, Madrid is there.
Yeah, Madrid is there. So something is happening in Spain.
yeah.
Something right is happening in Spain.
Yeah.
So we just have to get our act together. We have to get it right. Look, this tournament has shown me why government shouldn't fund. You know, it's the same thing I always say. This
Sports should be autonomous on its own. Very independent.
This year's Kenya Open, this year's Safari Rally, this year's that JWRT has shown me all the reasons why we keep saying government should not fund sports. Because
Elaborate for us that one.
case in point, I have seen 3 billboards for this World Rugby Under-20.
Yes.
Yes.
I have seen, maybe I've seen it on TV. I've seen it on TV only when they're announcing about the game the game happened today.
Yes.
Yes.
This and this and this game was played.
Yeah.
I have not seen it anywhere else. So who are you doing the billboards for?
Yeah.
You're likely to get a higher conversion of social media than you are of billboards.
billboards.
But it's government who's doing it. Do they really care?
I remember you were one of the people who did the Kenya Rugby Union Funds app.
Yes.
You remember
Yes.
the app engagement?
Yes.
The app engagement. With this World Under-20 Rugby and so far from also even the end of the Kenya Cup and starting of the circuit, how has it been?
It's not there because, you know, an app needs to be funded.
Exactly.
You need an app. You need to feed an app content for it to make sense.
Yes.
Right. So if you don't have the money, then it becomes a problem. Now, what happens with these government LOCs, as I've seen across those 3 sports I'm telling you about, is those LOCs are just funded by government, are flooded with government folk.
Yes.
And then you are leaving 3 or 4 guys to run, your cronies basically.
Yeah.
And then you leave 3 or 4 folk from the technical community.
Yeah.
So we have been sitting down with Kenya Rugby Union talking about the app from January this year.
Yeah.
They didn't do any mentions with regard to the app until a week before JWRT or World Under 20.
Yeah.
And it's because they don't have their money. They have to depend on government. And government come and they have no sense whatsoever about what makes sense. That is why they'll go for the Kipchoge Keno Classic and say it's free.
Yeah.
Thinking that you're going to fill a stadium on free? No, you won't.
And by the way, so you wrote some comprehensive opinion regarding free entry.
You can't.
During a sporting event.
It doesn't work that way. It doesn't.
People need to pay at the gate.
You need to pay at the gate. You need to, but also to pay at the gate, you need to create you need to create an experience for the fan, right?
So that there is value for the money you're paying at the gate.
Exactly. I mean, look, guys, it's entertainment. There's a quote: people are likely to spend more money where they're having fun.
Yeah.
Right? So, and the fun can be the rugby game. There are so many fans. There's the game expert who accounts for 13% of your fan base. The biggest fan base is connection. Somebody wants to be connected to the community or to the brand or to that accounts for the biggest number, 26%. So you can't just be leaving it to the rugby enthusiasts. You have to make it a 360-degree experience for the fan.
Yeah.
And that is where whenever you have, because they're civil servants, whenever you have government funding this thing, they don't want to contract the professionals. They think they know everything, which is something I've seen.
Yeah.
I've been to all these government-funded events. I've done all of them, and
that has always been a norm.
Oh, I've done, and it's wanting. Let me just say, the standards from a commercial and fun experience is very wanting.
Let's go and talk about the games now that will be happening. Kenya is playing the 5th place ranking there, and we've got the junior Sables of Zimbabwe against the Chipu.
Yeah.
That is the game for tomorrow. That is the game. It will be live here on Y254. How do you see that one going out? Can we go past Zimbabwe? They toppled us in Bates.
And is the timing appropriate?
It is. I mean, first, again, we should stop being entitled. These guys have been so good for us. They've given us a 2 p.m. time.
Yes.
We should have played at 10, strictly speaking, not 10.
12.
Hong Kong, the first guys, we should have played at 12, strictly speaking. But obviously, being the last day, it's a host country, blah, blah, blah. They've agreed to play it at 2 p.m. Do we have a shot against those guys? Yes, we do have a shot. We lost, not narrowly, against them in the Bathurst Cup final. But the truth is also they had been in camp a bit longer than we were. So now that we've had quite a bit of time, we're on the ascendancy, obviously. I consider, as bad as it was, I consider Spain to be a positive result. Because, I mean, they hammered Hong Kong 52-0 or something
58.
like that. Yeah, 58-0.
Yes.
So I do consider us to be on the ascendancy.
Yeah.
I think we do have a shot tomorrow.
Yes.
As for the timing, Max, we got a good shot. I mean, look, we should have played at 12 p.m. Strictly speaking,
yes,
we should have played at 12 p.m. But based on the circumstances.
But we have had a good event so far for the 2 weeks for me, and considering what was happening, the political environment that was in the country. We had a match during one of those days.
On the Thursday, actually. Last week.
When everybody is out there and wanting, but at the end of the day, we had a successful event, games that happened. And then 3rd place, Scotland, Samoa. Shocker for Scotland to lose to Uruguay, but I believe this South American team, Uruguay, is really coming up very well, even in the 15s rugby, when you look at the way they are playing. And now, they are showing the talent that they have got. And they have made it onto the final, yes, but no one expected Scotland to play the 3rd place, actually even against Samoa.
Me, after the first weekend, after I saw Uruguay play the States, America, you could see these guys could do something. And then they played, who did they play in the second game? They played the US the first game,
the one that was a whooping. I think they won overwhelmingly.
Yeah,
I remember that fixture.
so
they
there's-
played US, the Zimbabwe.
Zim, yes, yes,
They
they
actually
really
beat
whooped
Zim
Zim, yeah.
51-14.
Yeah, then by the time the Scotland game was coming around,
Yeah.
what Uruguay have been able to show is that they can grind it out.
Yes.
They can grind out the win.
Yes.
And that's exactly what we've seen with the Uruguay game, with the Scotland game. Now Spain are another thing. If they have a fleet-footed backline,
Yes.
and the only way Uruguay will be able to handle them, in my opinion, is if they slow the game down. They have Bali forwards, obviously, South America.
Yes.
So if they can slow down the game, then choke them at the breakdown, make their transition slow, then it's going to be a good outing for Uruguay.
Yeah.
However, if Spain are quick on their transitions, they have a very good number 10 who distributes the ball very quickly. So
Yes.
actually, the halfback pairing distributes the ball very
What
quickly.
is the trick of Stellenbosch? Because you told me Spain have been there for the last 5-6 months in that camp.
Yes.
I think, is it because of the human resource and that South Africa brings in that they can offer to the other countries that Spain can go there and try to learn and camp there and get the best out of it?
You know, sports is a science.
Yeah.
And you need the necessary personnel to achieve whatever it is that you need to achieve, because all the resources that Stellenbosch has.
Yes.
So in terms of gameplay, you're able to record your videos, you're able to understand what it is that you need to work on, you're able to understand your diet. I don't know if you see our Kenya boys whenever they come after those 2 months, they've been, because they're working with, you know, gym is not just gym. You just sit down and lift weights.
Yeah.
No, it's also dependent on your position.
Yes.
So for example, if you're a back, you need to be if you're a winger, you need to be explosive. You know, you need to be agile.
Yes.
A bit more than the center, a bit more than the fly-half. So your training schedule is going to be different. If you're a prop, it's all about scrummaging. It's all about ball carrying. So it's powerlifting. You know, it's working on your core despite being that big. All those things is what Stellenbosch brings, and it's data backed, right? So you're able to understand when do you perform best. You're able to understand, okay, Max ikifika 60-70 minutes amewezwa, so tunamtoa. Ama to know when Max has the best burst of his energy. That's what Stellenbosch brings you.
Yeah.
It's a whole data-driven backroom stuff that people don't talk about. We just sit down and look at the coaches. I mean, even this JWR, Kai, I need to stop calling it that. This World Under-20 Rugby Trophy.
Yes.
I've been sitting down and just watching, and I was sitting with the former Sevens coach and Queens coach, Charles Cadavillis. And I'm telling him, Charlie, just look at the tech benches. You look at our tech bench for Kenya, our guys are on notebooks. If you look at the Samoans, they are MacBooks, they have their data analytics guys, they're understanding what's happening behind the scenes.
Yes.
That's what Stellenbosch gives you. And over 5, 6, 10, 12 months, consistently of doing that, you're able to up your performance as an athlete. So that's what Stellenbosch gives you.
You can't get to that level.
Resources.
It will take us time.
It's money. It's nothing else. It's money, because if you go for a London Harlequins training session today, they have 4 drones and 8 cameras training session.
Yeah.
Where they train on the gameplay and everything. By the time as a player you've gone, showered, recovery, blah, 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 all those things, you've been emailed. So there's somebody looking at the video, chopping it up, editing, and I'm sure your backroom staff know it's not easy.
Yes.
Chopping it up, in your Osoro, in your Max,
Yeah.
you look at it, you understand where your problem, and they've already identified where your problem is. You greased a tackle here, you know, your stance in terms of defense is a problem. So that by the time you're coming for the next morning session, you find they do the gym sessions in the morning, then they do what's called film.
Yes.
Film is a very big part in sport now. It's a very big part in sports nowadays.
Yes.
And then now you go now for your gameplay sets. So
finally,
so just to finish, sorry, I beg your pardon. So there's nothing, I keep on saying, there's nothing unintentional. Or rather, there's unintentional things that happen on the field, but most of the things are planned. Unintentional is an X factor. They call X factor. But most of the things are planned.
And the final game, the final now, Uruguay, Spain, who do you give it for 2? Because Uruguay have done their best. Spain has also shocked us actually to make it on, because for me I thought it either going to be Scotland or Samoa, making it to the final, but at the end of the day it is Uruguay and Spain in that final. Who do you give
And
it to?
as he gives his speculation, it should be a disclaimer that, you know, the prediction reflects the
opinion,
individual position
of
Ngarua, Kamuya, and not necessarily Y254. So that for the sake of investors who are probably looking forward to placing a bet, are these games on betting platforms?
I don't think so.
No.
Betting is not supported for under 20.
Yeah,
obviously because of moral obligations, for
Yeah.
lack of a better word. But it depends. Look, your predictions are dependent on what you prefer as a fan,
Yes.
right? So I've always, yes, I do admire forward play, but I like mobile forward play. I don't like people who slow it down.
Yes.
And obviously I like electric backs. So for that, I'm going to be going with Spain. But I'm also very cognizant of the fact that if Uruguay slow down that ball, it's going to be very hard for Spain.
Wow.
What's your take regarding this fan mechanism that was launched by Kenya Rugby Union to rally supporters to show up in large numbers, you know, fan engagement initiative? As
Which particular one? Yeah.
I don't know, for
the
tomorrow's
ticket
elimination,
sale
the
for
ticket
100
sale. So
Yes,
far, do you believe that, you know,
I've
fans
seen-
have done their best?
I've seen the
showing good
pre-sale.
attendance?
I've seen the pre-sale numbers,
Yeah.
and there's no change that
Yeah.
has done. Does it bring more people to the stadium tomorrow? I don't think so, because actually that sale is done.
Yes.
It was ending at midday today.
Yeah.
So I've seen the numbers. Nothing really to push people. There's no real change that has happened in terms of people coming. So again, it goes back to the commercial model. I was having a conversation with Fred Olos this morning. We need to remove the purists of the game and the commercial people. Separate those two. That's the biggest problem in Kenya Rugby. You're a purist and you think that somebody's going to come watch your game just because your game is cool. It's cool to you. It's not cool. It's not cool to other people.
Talk to us about, you know, the decision, the announcement that came within the week, that now, you know, Kevin Wambua Bling is now taking over as head coach for Kenya Rugby National Sevens team, Shujaa, replacing Damian McGrath.
Let's be honest. That call has been made because of financial. I'm not saying I know. I'm just saying from where I'm seeing.
Yes.
It's been made because of KRU are not in a position to remunerate
The foreign-based.
the foreign-based coaches. There's a fight, obviously, within Kenya. We need to maintain our own and everything. But the question I always ask is, do we have the Stellenbosch capacities? Do we have the Stellenbosch experience?
Yeah.
Have these people experienced rugby at the highest level
Yes.
to understand what you need with the new tools to make your team better? And the answer is no, to be honest. We don't have that. They might be good in terms of the technical stuff, but the reason why coaches are called managers is because there's so many things you're managing.
Yes.
You know, there's so many things.
There's the talent.
There's the
administration.
gameplay, there's the personalities.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah.
So we just when I'm using another industry. When we didn't invent banking
Yes.
as Kenyans, we got colonized, then we picked it up from there, right? But our initial bankers had to go to be trained
Yes.
by the people who had been doing it for a while. And then they came. And they still go to be trained because we are not the ones who come up with all these innovative solutions. And where we do, remember guys, where we do, those countries send people to us.
Yes.
For example, M-Pesa and the works. So sports, for a fact, we do not have it. Why don't we train our people? Why don't we capacity build? I don't know.
From the sports consultancy perspective, you've seen what's facing our Kenyan teams football-wise. Gor Mahia is supposed to represent the country in continental football, CAF Champions League.
And then
They didn't comply with CAF licensing requirements. I've seen ICT, CSL, Dowalo trying to intervene. I don't know, too late.
I was telling my Maxwell here, it is now a time where there's world federations from the top now coming downwards. They have already seen the trend. we are not learning. We are not making those changes. No. So now they are tightening
the belt.
Yeah, they are tightening. In that they are telling you, if you don't go with these regulations, you are not going to the next stage.
Let me tell you.
Just
Yeah, yeah, they are just getting the what can I? They're just now they are getting off the trash.
Yes, actually.
Off their table. They're just saying we need someone who is coming on top of this table to be really professional to move forward.
We are just joking, guys. As in,
Yeah.
this thing is it's big business, and we can't expect to compete with the people. Now, Gor Mahia, they're saying, oh, which other club doesn't have a TRS? Clearly, they don't have, because you're the one who's been shut out.
Yes. Yes.
You know, so, oh, it's what do you mean it's a witch hunt? That's nonsense. And then why is... Look, I'm not begrudging what Nani is doing. I'm not talking bad about what Eli Dowalo is doing.
Yeah.
He's doing a very good job in terms of coming in. But again,
How sustainable,
is it?
But
You know?
you see, also, like, it's another thing that you see that one is just one.
Yes.
That was finances.
Yes.
Now there's another one of
For the stadium.
for the stadium. Yeah, infrastructure. Where you're being told we are not good enough. We
have to go host in
yeah, you see,
Tanzania.
now in that
you know,
they are closing our doors from.
It is a shame considering that we're bidding for 2027 African Cup of
It's a
Nations
joke.
and our facilities are in horrible state.
But even those facilities, that's a question I asked. Somebody wrote, I don't know who it was, a former football player. I'm trying to remember who it was. He wrote, as people, that's what I'm telling you. I don't know who sits down at that ministry to advise these people. Because this nonsense of building stadiums with tracks. Stadiums are for fans. They're not
And
for
it's
the
not about
athletes.
playing surface.
I mean, let's go back to where stadium started, which is the Colosseum.
Yes.
If people are fighting, they can fight in their houses.
Yes.
But they built the Colosseum for people to come watch.
Yeah.
So fans are for stadiums are for fans. Now, if we're talking about football, if we're talking about rugby, what is this about this track around? You're separating people, the fan from the action.
Yes.
They need to be close to the action. We need to start constructing arenas and stadiums that are for the fans.
Yeah.
You know, so
Fan friendly.
it's fan friendly, man.
That's where we finish it. Thanks a lot, Ngarua.
No worries,
Kamuya.
man.
He's the CEO, 270 Degrees. It's a marketing agency, right?
It's a lot.
A lot.
But
Marketing
basically
consultants.
just think from as we handle sports from a business
Yes.
standpoint. So it's, if you have money and you want to invest in sporting organizations, we show you how to do
Yeah.
it. If you're sponsors and you want to tie in, we show you how to optimize your return on investment. If you're a federation and you're
Yes.
looking for sponsors, we have to sit down and develop your strategy for you.
Yes.
So it's a
I
lot.
think as a lawyer, too, a friend of mine was telling me just before we end up Osoro that, you know, tell your friend Ngarua that there have been rampant cases in Kenyan football scene that, you know, players' contracts are being violated. I think you...
But who's representing those players?
That's where we finish it. Thanks a lot. Maxwell Osike, Ngarua Kamuya. I'm Robert Osoro. For everyone who has made this production a success, good afternoon. Enjoy the rest of your viewing here on Y254. And remember, tomorrow, full day, Y254 is your home for the World Rugby Under-20 Trophy. Good afternoon. Enjoy the rest of your broadcast here on Y254.